Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is number 103 for December 23rd. So we're coming up on Christmas. You feeling festive, Kevin?
Ho, 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 ho.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect amount of fest. Perfect amount of fest. All right. So as we normally do, Kevin, how are you going to change my mind?
Well, this is one that touches upon some of the stuff that I've been doing coming back from the XR European event, the end of the year, one of the largest of the XR events. And one of the obvious opportunities from mixed reality compared to virtual reality is the engagement of the guest into the experience through the onboarding and offboarding process. And it is clear now that platforms, the VR systems out there, need to progress beyond what we have at the moment, which is a put this helmet on, everything's black for a while, can you see it yet? Is it working for you? Oh, let me check the audio. Okay, let's try that again. Here you go, you're in the game. Ain't cutting it. Not now. It didn't cut it then, and it's not cutting it now. Now we're seeing experiences that are in the new generation where they hand you your headset, you put it on, you see the world around you, and then you transition into the virtual experience without a member of staff having to check if the headset's working or if the audio's working properly. We've gone away from the Heath Robinson kind of confused technical demonstrator now to an experience, a proper transitional egress from the experience and a entry level to the wonderful world of immersion. And I think now we have to draw a line in the sand and say VR was then, XR is now. And I will give a little bit more clarification of why we've moved away from the VR terminology moving forward in the sector when I talk a little bit about what we saw United XR a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that just the culture has shifted away from the desire to do VR when they come out of their home. When people leave their homes, they tend to want to leave to go have shared experiences with other people, whether it's their friends or their family or their kids or their parents. Although I know sometimes kids don't think about that, but the kids want to go and have fun with their parents and in places too. And when you slap on goggles that block off everything else, your only interactivity with them is the fact that you happen to be in the same room and you see a little avatar of them somewhere else in the space. That's not the level of interaction that I think most people want when they come out of their home. And so when you add in XR or MR, you now have the ability to still see and interact with, first of all, things in your environment, but also the other people that are in the environment. I still struggle with putting glasses on and everything else, putting creating that, unless it really is enhancing and augmenting the experience. I still struggle with like extra burden that adds to the overall guest experience, but it is significantly better, I believe, than the disconnect that VR creates if your goal is to go and have fun interacting with other people.
Agreed. And I think one of the biggest failings of the VR revolution was that it forgot that we're in a social entertainment experience. And social means that we're with others. Even if those others didn't come with us, we're playing together in groups. And as you've seen with the next generation of technology, we are now looking at larger groups, and those large groups need to interact. And if they're going to interact, then they need to have what mixed reality brings to the table. A lot more than what just the sedentary environment of VR offered. But again, we'll touch upon that more a little bit on.
All right, awesome. Well, coming up right here after the break, we will dive right into the trends. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Thank you, Intercard. And jumping into the biz, and we are going to see a kind of a trend here where the things that we talked about in the previous sound off are still playing out in the current sound off. The Netflix situation still seems to be ongoing because, surprise, surprise, the board and everybody else at Warner told our friends at Paramount to go boil their heads regarding offer. The basics of the turn down of the Paramount deal that also included financial support from the Saudi fund was that it was an inferior offer and that there were significant risks in them even considering the higher price that Paramount was offering compared to the stability and the structure that Netflix is offering. Of course, we've heard the phrase, we'll make another counter offer, but I'm getting the feeling that the steam is falling out of their sails. So the wind is falling out of their sails regarding Paramount's capability to still play in the game, and other companies looking to compete against the Netflix bid seem to have also dried up. So I'm kind of betting on red, as it were, at the moment, and thinking that this Netflix Warner Brothers situation is going to happen, and we're already beginning now to see some of the ramifications of this, as in the elements that Netflix has no interest in. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Paramount changes its tact, to continue this sailing metaphor, towards picking up the bits that Netflix aren't taking from the Warner Brothers deal, maybe picking up their streaming services, picking up some of their other stuff that they're not actually going to be taking away with them.
Yeah. I mean, look, inevitably, I think I do agree with you. I do think that Netflix will win out. It would be interesting, though, to see what Paramount does scoop up in the scraps, and they might actually get a better deal at some level, right? I mean, the $30 per share is a really aggressive bid to capture, what arguably is not worth that $30 per share. But if they can get some of the remaining elements for pennies on the dollar, so to speak, then there's some interesting opportunities for them if they were to just back off and let Netflix deal go through.
I think so. But again, they may find that they've jumped too quickly, and those scraps that are left on the table may be scooped up by some of their competitors as well. The hawks of Disney and Comcast are circling as well around those scraps. Moving on, and another operation we were talking about last time had come to pass. So as you can see, I'm wearing my "I Told You So" T-shirt, and that's the social media side. A proper super official statement is still waiting to come out as we record this episode. But Arcade 1UP has announced that they've formed a relationship with Basic Fun, one of their distributor seller partners, that has now decided to pick up the assets that they feel are of interest to them from the Arcade 1UP operation, and that a brand new restructuring will be taking place. Again, I'm getting the feeling that not all of the Arcade 1UP operation is going to be acquired in this process. And so again, there may be some other scraps on the table for someone else to pick up. I wouldn't be surprised if Arcade 1UP's digital board game venture is one of those scraps that is cast adrift, and the core business. I don't know how well the Arcade 1UP home crane machine will be doing in this, but definitely the Puckmans and the Mortal Kombat type well-known classic games will be part of this settlement. But again, this is one to watch to see how the cards lie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if there was a, I don't know, there would be a better acquirer than Basic Fun, actually, of Arcade One Up. So this is their bread and butter. This is the kind of home products that they manage, and they manage well. And they already have the Arcade Classics, line of toys. And so this obviously fits in a much larger footprint than the Arcade Classics, which are like tiny little things that fit on your desk. But it does fit right in with their distribution model and all of the partners they already have. So it makes perfect sense.
This is an acquisition of assets rather than an acquisition of management. So it wouldn't surprise me that the Arcade One Up becomes a brand or a line in Basic Fun's range, as you say, extensive range of product. It allows them to move up a run in power regarding toy branding, positioning, and it allows the questionable style of management and direction that's previously been running the operation to move on, as it were. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to be spending a lot of 2026 seeing these kind of power plays, taking the assets, taking the brands, but leaving the management. Right. Again, another one that we've been touching on, but this one's a little bit more complicated, so we say. Our friends at Brighton Pier Group, a couple of sound-offs ago, made it very clear that the conditions in the UK weren't advantageous to them and that they were looking possibly to sell off their Brighton Pier operation, as well as, if you read the small print, other assets owned by the group. And then we wake up a couple of days ago to the news that Mellow, those theme park operators, as well as the operators of Urban Fun and their Cube competitive social entertainment offerings, had acquired the Lightwater Valley. Now, the Lightwater Valley theme park had only been acquired by the Brighton Pier Group back in 2021. So it was quite a surprise to see that as an asset that would be one of the first to go onto the chopping board, not even make it onto the board itself, but be acquired straight away by Mellor. So it's quite clear that the Mellor group has had their eye on this opportunity as they grow their own operation in this current conditions. I don't know if they paid the 5 million that Brighton Pier paid. I doubt it very much that they paid that amount, but I think that they got a very good deal. And then, hold your breath, we then see another of the Brighton Pier Group venue chains, in this particular case, the Paradise Island Adventure Golf, mini golf experience. I would actually call this more of a crazy golf experience rather than a mini golf experience. They have a chain of 7 facilities, and surprise, surprise, Brighton Pier has put these up for sale. Now, this is an interesting one. I had assumed that Brighton Pier Group had already found purchasers for the offering, so I wouldn't be surprised if a company that they thought was going to be taking this has decided not to, and so they've now thrown it back in to the water to see who's interested to purchase it. But it shows a root and branch clearing of house of certain assets by Brighton Pier Group, and could be spelling a move in the UK market as we see restructuring and reformulating, as we talked about with what had happened with Merlin regarding their Legoland involvement.
I mean, this is really interesting. At first I was thinking, okay, well, Brighton Pier Group, maybe they're liquidating some of these assets to make moves in other areas to free up some cash flow. Maybe they were burdened with some debt, or maybe they just expanded, reached beyond their skis. I mean, they only have, under their group, they have the Brighton Palace Pier itself, right? So they have the Brighton Palace Pier, their golf division, which now they're selling, and then the Lightwater Valley attractions, which they just sold. So they have nothing else. And so this would either mean that they're freeing up cash flow and capital to do expansion at Brighton Palace Pier, or to do some other acquisitions, or shareholders are just getting itchy and they want distributions, and they want, or they need to free up their balance sheet because they have too much debt there. It'd be really interesting to understand, but they have basically cleared house other than their core offering at Brighton Pier.
Their core offering is up for sale. The group itself only formulated about 2019 or 16. If I'm doing that off the top of my head, I will rectify the exact date at a later point. But what's really happening here is they had great aspirations of world domination. They were taking on IP, they were taking on operations that were going concerns, and they were going to be building a Merlin-esque empire. That has not worked out, and I think that they've generated a large amount of debt, which the certain investors will be questioning how those debts were generated so quickly over what were going concerns. So the scrutiny of light has forced them to cut their cloth now, and I really doubt if this will be an ongoing operation once they've sold all of their assets, unless they draw the line at the Brighton Pier Group, as it were, Brighton Pier asset, and just reform from that stage. But from the stuff that I'm hearing, these guys are really cutting it to the quick. Moving on, and Mattel. Now, many of us wondered why, as we wandered around IALPA a couple of months ago now, oh dear, why there was so much themality. Well, we knew that the IALPA Association was pushing its IP associations, but one of the entrances was decked out as if it was a water park run by Mattel, and it was interesting to see the Mattel branding and all of the water park sound effects and themality. And now we kind of know what was going on, that Mattel were about to announce their entry into the water park or indoor water park business. Big deal. They are looking at about 3 facilities within the first few years of operation. We're looking at maybe the first facility opening by 2027. And if you know how long it takes to develop a water park, an indoor water park, especially one based on IP at this level, then you know it's going to be quite a fast launching process for them, especially as we have been seeing, if you've been following your open and shut, that older water parks have been finding it difficult, regional water parks have been finding it difficult to survive in the current climate. Well, Mattel's throwing their hat in the ring, and they feel that iconic IP themed around attractions such as Hot Wheels and Barbie and other toy brands is going to make a major difference. Will you and your kids rather go to a Mattel themed water park compared to your trusty regional water park that's been going since the 1970s? This is the question that we're going to be seeing. And it kind of underlines the most important part that we need to take away from this, which is the IP industry, the licensing and branding industry, sees us as a major part of their future. And they will walk right over us to get to that grand future that they're looking forward to.
I don't know that the Mattel brand will bring anything to a water park. I'm not convinced, as you alluded to, I think, without saying it directly, that it will. I mean, we talked about this on the LBX show and the Open and Shut, and we've recently seen Planet Play School close down. We've seen other brands close their doors, like Nickelodeon, Small Kids Experience, and the comment I made there was I think holds up here as well, and it's to be seen. Is that do kids and families really care that the Mattel brand and that they're going down a Barbie slide versus any water slide? I would argue that most kids just want to go down water slides. Most kids just want to do crafts, and they don't care as much about the actual IP or branding unless it's something that is fully immersive and truly, something elevated above vis-a-vis Universal, Harry Potter, and like all the different Harry Potter, Hogsmeade, etc. Right? Like that's now you can cosplay into that. You're just going down a water slide and it happens to look like in your tube you're in happens to look like a Hot Wheel. Okay, cool. It's still a water slide. And
this is the point. Will the management structure and the companies that Mattel have hired, because Mattel won't be developing this will be developed through a partnership of at least 4 companies, including a consultancy specialist in the water park business. And if they think that they can get away with just putting a giant tire on the slide and calling it Hot Wheels and making sure that the colors match the Palatones of the Hot Wheel IP, and that's enough, put a lid on it, it's fantastic, without thinking about immersive experiences that offer something comparable to the larger theme parks, but in a package suitable for this indoor venue, then this goes back to the argument we had about Chuck's Adventure World. This goes back to the arguments about Netflix House. This goes back to all of the arguments, which is your IP isn't enough just to wrap around proven entertainment. It has to be the next generation of entertainment. And if you don't have that, then you're going to end up like our friends at Nickelodeon experience in Spain. Moving on, and congratulations to the new appointees in the market. And Fun Labs has, Blazers been working next door to Michael now for some time, hand in glove, as they've been growing the Fun Lab operation from their Australian chain to now what they've been doing in North America. And Michael feels that it's perfect timing now for him to focus more on the board level chief executive side. He's now handed over to the heir apparent. We wish all of them luck with this process, and we're looking forward to some new announcements from Fun Lab about their international aspirations in the next couple of weeks. Moving on, and round one in Japan gave us a snapshot or piece of information that was unusual, to say the least. We need to chart something important. At the moment, there are 57 North American round one facilities currently. They have expanded considerably since their first foray into the market in California, and they have really established their brand. They've also been rolling out their smaller venues, and I don't think we've given enough coverage to the round one arcade, which has removed the bowling component, the same way that we also have the round one bowling facilities that also have their active play component. But anyway, these 57 facilities, compared to in Japan, we have 98. Well, my machine tells me that we have 99, but they tell me that we have 98 Japanese facilities. Of those Japanese facilities, they generate a reliable and regular revenue. To hear that the 57 facilities in the US have made 10 billion yen. I'm sorry, I didn't do the calculations to dollars, but 10 billion yen, and that number is roughly equal to the number, on par with, to the number that the 98 facilities in Japan have made, isn't as big a whoopee-doo celebration as I interpret these numbers. A smaller number of facilities makes the same amount of money as a larger number of facilities. Doesn't read as well as the way that the press statement from Japan read. It tells me, number one, that the 98 or 99 facilities in Japan aren't operating as higher throughput and profit margin as we were led to believe the success of the round one brand in Japan was. And also, we have no benchmark to work out if all of these 57 US facilities are generating profit upon profit, or if they're just breaking even, or they are mirroring what has been seen by some of their other corporations, such as Dave & Buster's, as seeing a slight decline on sites. Giving us a little bit of information gives us a peek under the curtain, and sometimes that peek under the curtain sees something that we shouldn't really be seeing. This information from round one Japan is going to be dug into a lot more than I think that they were hoping it will be.
Well, I did do the calculations, and so before I could reveal the numbers, I'm just curious. Do you know, is that 10 billion yen their top line revenue, or is this their EBITDA, gross profit, etc.? Like, do we know what this number is?
They didn't.
Okay.
I've near enough cut and pasted that exactly to how it was made in the
Yeah.
press statement.
Because here's my concern or question or reason why reason why that was even a question. 10 billion yen is $64 million in the US, which would tell me then that 57 of the 57 locations, that's a 1.12 million per location. That to me should be their EBITDA. I mean, if you're running, I mean that should be your EBITDA. And if that is their top line revenue, there's a real fucking problem. There's no way that a round one, but I'll be fair, I'll be honest. Every time I've walked into a round one, there have been like 10 people in it. So I also do question that there is maybe an actual $1.1 million top line per location on average. Right now we're talking about averages. Obviously there's outliers, etc., in different markets, but it is not a good number.
I will put up the translated version of the statement from Japan up on our Friends of the Stinger Report Facebook. And putting this into perspective, I'm using the torus of pain, as it were, to kind of position where I think, and this is a personal opinion, of where regarding this mass of bird's nest, where the round one operation generally sits. I'm not just focusing on the round one arcades or the round one bowling, but the general round one operation. And you can see that it sits in the sweet spot, as it were, for entertainment and FEC and location-based entertainment. But if those numbers are hiding a shortfall, then we better find out about that sooner than later, because I've also noticed that we haven't heard much about round one's entry into the restaurant business either. So if we see a management restructuring going forwards, then, well, I'll keep this "I told you so" t-shirt warm. Anyway, moving on, and the big announcement from the European point of view is the green light by His Majesty's government towards the building plans for Universal Studios Great Britain, working title. The facility, the 470 acre facility, has a rough design in place now. And that design has been given a green light by the government, and the building work will start next year, 2026, as well as confirmation, which is still to be done, but we're all working towards the opening of spring 2031. So that's not a lot of time to get this facility open, but I do believe it's a staggered gate opening in place, and I know of some of the Universal destination and experience team that are already working out their shipping plans to move out to the UK. So this will be a major entry into the UK market, if not the European market as a whole. This is a big vote of confidence for the UK entertainment market, and we'll see the obvious trickle down of services and supports from the UK sector helping with the development and opening of this site. And we hope that this site is an exemplar site towards other plans of similar mixed entertainment. What I mean by that, this is a theme park, yes, but it also has quite considerable resort, hotel, and location-based entertainment component to the mix. But again, a lot of the plans are still under embargo, so I don't want to go into too much detail on that.
Yeah. I mean, Universal is just hitting their stride. They're going to be opening their Universal Kids Resort in Frisco, Texas as well next year. So probably springtime, late or early summer next year, just in time for summer break. And now they've just finally, I mean, they've been pushing for this for a while, but finally got this approval, and so they are really hitting their stride. And Disney's going to have to think about what moves they're going to make next, because right now Universal is outplaying them for sure.
I would be interested to see what Disneyland Paris does to defend themselves against this, and if Disney's in a position to do this, and if other parks. We also have the trials and tribulations that's going on at Merlin Entertainment, and we're not quite sure what state they're going to be in by 2031, but I wouldn't be surprised that we see the industry that this park will be going into in the UK will be a totally different market to where we are now. A lot of movements going to be taking place. And again, I'm going to try and use the Taurus for as much as I can to kind of give people an idea of where an operation such as a brand new UK park will fit into the mix. As you can see, it's more in the resort side than it does in the park side. It doesn't have a cruise line component. Bedfordshire is quite some way away from the coast. But funny enough, the last theme park project for the UK that had been scheduled and planned actually did include a cruise line support component. So it's not so wild to think about that. But this particular venue is also going to be moving much more into the LBE side. And I use location-based experience rather than location-based entertainment as a definer there. But again, we can deal with that more when more of the design is revealed. We touched upon this in Open and Shut. It's very hard to get confirmation in many cases that the venue has actually closed. Usually the only way to find out is to try and order a birthday party there, or to have to run to TripAdvisor to be confirmed if a venue is permanently closed. But it has been confirmed regarding the changes that we're seeing with this particular group, that the Nickelodeon venture, two venues that were opened up in Spain to much fanfare in 2018 and 2017, both of those sites have now closed. We knew that the Madrid facility had closed and shuttered its doors at that particular mall, but now all of the sites now have been confirmed to have closed. We touched upon many of the reasons we thought in the sound off that could have impacted this. I am going to stake my flag in the ground that they bit off too much with an IP that didn't bring enough to the table, to an audience that didn't really care if they were playing a Turtles slide or climbing wall against just a normal climbing wall. I can speak from confidence that the Spanish market has a large number of active entertainment facilities in the major areas of the country, and most of them don't need to lean on a very expensive IP like Nickelodeon's.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody was curious and wants to hear my feedback, they can listen to the LBX show on Open and Shut. So I'll hold off anything else.
Thank you. Moving to the trending tech, and if your park business or your FEC business isn't doing fantastically, then you can always do a branding deal. And our friends at Dave & Buster's decided that they would do a branding deal to create a crane-based bag with the company Chain, who are well known for their apparel and fashion side. I don't know which management signed the deal. You could argue that the deal has worked out fantastically because it is a sold out item, but I'm not an expert in the bag and purse sector to whether this is sold out because it is flying off the shelves or sold out because that's how this apparel chain works. It only produces limited numbers of particular. I can't see a lot of Dave & Buster's themality over this crane bag. It's a funny laugh, but you know, as a man that didn't quite get Tamagotchis or all of the furry things dangling from women's purses at the moment, maybe I'm showing my age here, and this is a fantastic deal, but it was a deal all the same.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can tell from the pictures that I'm looking at here online, I cannot see Dave & Buster's branding anywhere other than the fact that it's a Dave & Buster's orange. So it does seem to be potentially a miss from that perspective.
I'm sure they will blame the previous management for this miss. Moving on, and it's one that I want to bring to our attention, and I'll make this a quick one because we've got other stuff to talk about, but we've been hearing a lot about the combined entertainment system that is linked to a tournament system that is constantly connected. So, you play the game, and if you get the high score, then you get a prize, or you get some reward, possibly financial, and this generates revenue for the operator because it's a shared revenue purse with the company. And Connects was one of those systems is one of those systems we've heard about. It is a combining of a punch bag and a football system using a Connect network tournament system that also hopes to share the revenue with the operator. Revenue sharing. Don't be misled by the AI artwork of the machine. The machine does actually exist, and we've been keeping an eye on this. I want to raise this as an interesting situation about machine revenue sharing, because this is the beginning of something that we're going to be seeing a lot more of in 2026, and we should kind of use the Kinects as a kind of a canary in the mine shaft, as it were, to find out if this is a concept that's going to actually find favor with operators, or if this is a concept that may need more time in the oven.
Yeah, well, I think the connected tournament play has legs, long-term legs, in
Golden Tee.
Yeah, exactly, right. I mean, so it's been proven out. I mean, even Big Buck Hunter has tournaments, but Arcade, Allen One is trying to implement their Major League Esports. Virtuix, Omni Arena has had their connected tournament play for a long time. So I do think the tournament play. I'm not convinced that a sport boxing and kicking game connected to a tournament will necessarily have the legs. But I think the trend of the tournament play expanding into pinball, the connected tournament play expanding into other areas, I think is here to stay.
One to watch. And a quick one about AI. All of the big words about legal suits and suing, and we will see your lawyers against our lawyers, and then surprise, surprise, our friends at Disney do a deal with ChatGPT to make it available for their IP to now be represented legally within the creations of Sora. So that awful-looking Yoda and that awful-looking Darth Vader in Sora will now be boosted up and will look very true to form sheet. Now it will be an exact representation in your fanfic creation mashed up between Superman and Star Wars. I am surprised that Disney did this deal so quickly. Unless they feel that they need to get ahead of the chain, or if they didn't feel that the legal suits were going to stop the floodgates of AI utilization of their content. Either way, on one hand, claiming that they're going to sue the Chinese AI platform and that they're going to, see everybody in court, and then in the other hand, they do a deal with ChatGPT, may hurt the legal ramifications going forward. But that's just a personal.
I find this super fascinating that Disney actually paid OpenAI versus OpenAI paying Disney for access to their IP. I mean, it's actually mind-blowing to me that this is the direction that it went. And look, you have to hand Sam Altman a lot of credit. He is potentially one of the best fundraisers of at least this generation and he's a masterful at it. And to go to Disney and say, hey, Disney, we've been ripping off your characters and IP for free, but you know what? Why don't you, pay us $1 billion and we'll continue to implement your stuff in Sora. So really quite fascinating that this went this direction. I would never have expected this to happen. And so, kudos to Sam Altman and his team at OpenAI for striking this deal. I think it's smart for Disney to have settled something with ChatGPT. People are going to want Mickey Mouse things. They're going to want Goofy things. They're going to want all the other IP related in their Sora videos. So why not make sure it's the accurate representation and lean in.
I wouldn't be surprised if a demonstration was done of how many times the Disney character bases are being searched on Sora, and maybe someone within ChatGPT just went to Disney. It would be a shame if whenever someone typed in a Disney product, they were told that is not available and you lose out compared to your competition. I'm not saying that blackmail or pressure was applied, but it is an obvious statement that you can see in the boardroom to suddenly have the company whose pocket was being picked opening their wallet and handing a little bit more cash across the table.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
well, coming up after the quick break, we will we'll dive into a little special segment. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
Moving on, and we have two segments here to round up the last of the coverage for the year. The first part is talking about what we saw at United XR. For you that are not aware of what the event in Europe represented, AWE, the Augmented World Expo group, and the European group, there's a lot of little groups in the European market that kind of congregate around XR, AR technology, VR, mixed reality, all of that stuff. And Stereoscopa was one of those events that really had a very strong following, as well as AWE Europe had a very strong following. And I was really impressed to see that these two operations came together, and rather than scratching each other's eyes out there, actually formulated an operation. And this event in Brussels was a great collab, where we had the conference section and we had the exhibition section. Exhibition section was full of the latest XR, and I'm really heavily onto the XR side. For many, VR has been tainted by its failure to really achieve the trajectory that many people were planning for it for various reasons in the consumer sector. But VR is used religiously in the enterprise and in our sector, and we make profit from it and we see strength. But sadly, VR is tainted a little bit by just the perceptions of it was going to be the next best thing since sliced bread, and the metaverse kludge that never really happened. On the show floor, we saw some of the next generation technology that will play a major part in our future in location-based entertainment, as well as in enterprise, as well as in consumer. And I was lucky enough to be asked to host what was a location-based XR conference session, talking to companies that are really leading the charge in the next phase of VR, going back to that shared reality, multiple users within a virtual world rather than the onesie-twosie VR arcade approaches. And Excurus and Universe, through their ex-Rome divisions, have been dropping in. We've talked about this numerous times on Open and Shuts, have been opening up facilities that have groups of 20, 30 and 40 walking through virtual environments together. And we were lucky enough to have Museverse, a operator of one such of these facilities there, talking about how they utilize this technology. And it was an eye-opening approach towards what we hope to be the future of location-based XR going forwards, but also opening the door on the whole of the brand new location-based XR landscape. And one of those new systems on the show floor was the Skyjet VR system, what I would say a passive version of the flying theater kind of approach. Multiple people wearing headsets being transported through a soaring high fidelity experience using a unique motion base. It was interesting to experience this, and you can kind of see how this kind of system could supersede what we've seen with the previous generation of the 9D eggs, where you're sitting in one of those eggs being buffeted around with a Chinese headset on your face. It is opening the door towards offering a much more immersive approach. We also had an example on the show floor of one of those multi-use shared reality experiences, this time from Enter, partnered with our friends at Backlight VR, who produced a number of the Monet and what I would call virtual adventure kind of experiences for multiple users, and also partnered with HTC on this particular installation. And it gave the audiences at the show a chance to experience really what we mean by shared reality environments. And then we had the next generation of the omnidirectional treadmills. Many of our viewers and listeners will remember the Vertrix system, and they're putting on those special shoes and running on those padded floor omnidirectional systems. Well, now the new generation offers a higher fidelity with ball bearings incorporated into the design, offering a more realistic and smoother flow to their omnidirectional systems. They have their place in the market. I'm not sure how many of these will transverse themselves into the location-based entertainment sector, but it was interesting to see them there. And then we had the invasion of AR. More than just a AI smart glass system, AR represents virtual synthetic images into the real world environment, which you can interact with. And our friends at Snap had their latest spectacle system there, which offers a high fidelity AR glasses system, which is already being employed in the location-based entertainment sector through our friends at Versus. And Niantic were there as well, who are promoting their spatial environments for AR glasses. So, they create the world in which you populate and can view through the AR glasses. And it is clear that these companies are now looking at this as their next investment, the next push into the market away from the AI glasses, looking towards what the AR glasses can offer. A lot of the headset companies were there, and a number of demonstrations. We're getting through quite a large number of headsets per throughput, and it was great to see the latest of the cleaning processes being employed. Our friends at Cleanbox systems being used there to ensure that the hygiene aspects of utilizing these systems in large throughput environments was top notch. And there's a lot more to know about the hygiene rulings that are being put in place towards ensuring that future applications in enterprise and location-based XR for headsets is kept to a high standard to keep our audience happy. Meta were there. Didn't bring many headsets, brought a lot of their AI glasses, and they actually held a mixer on one of the nights at the event. And it was kind of interesting, here we were sharing the champagne and the conversation with Meta, only for a couple of days later to learn that Meta would be pulling back a lot of what they were doing in VR and focusing that more on their AI smart glasses. And it kind of tells you that these companies will go where the money is. And so when you start to see them migrate in this direction, it is not that VR has died, but there is an opportunity to be made quicker to roll back some of that $80 billion that they've invested into the sector. And then finally, in the awards and in the presentations and the whole flavor of the event, it was clear that XR is going to be very closely conjoined with AI. The usage, especially in the positioning and the tracking, in the spatial awareness and the placing of objects into the real world as well as in the virtual world, can be accelerated by the use of large language model powered tools and applications, and I'm really looking forward to what the 2026 series of AWE events brings to the table, especially as we're associated with them. The big American event in June will now have a dedicated LBE XR component to it, both for stage, exhibition, and I hope to have a lot more news about companies that are going to be jumping on this bandwagon in the coming months. Any comments, Brandon, about that?
No, I mean, I would have loved to have been there and joined you in Brussels. I'm hoping to get out to AWE this year.
Yes.
And Long Beach is just a drive away, so it's a little mini hop flight for me. So I am hoping to join you there, and look forward to just seeing the new LBXR zone.
It will be interesting to have a central venue for the XR side of our industry. I know how difficult it is for maybe some of the more established exhibitions to incorporate this industry. Adding trends to an established industry is always very difficult, and having an industry that actually dedicates itself to this technology seems a better fit, but we will wait and see. Anyway, to wind up the end of the year, and to give a little bit of retrospective, we'll zip through really some of the talking points that have tickled us. Not all of them, obviously, and if you feel that I've missed one of those talking points, please hit me up in the comments or send me a message on LinkedIn or email. But my number, not in any order, but just going through, we've just talked about LBX or XR, as it were, and really this was the year where VR had to admit that it hadn't reached its goals in the consumer sector, and really what we've seen is that the enterprise and the commercial application of XR technology has just moved on, leaving the consumer sector in the dust. And even though we have new machines coming out next year from Valve in the consumer sector, we have the investment that Samsung has now made into XR. We can see from what's happened with Meta and Apple that really the real money seems to be now pivoting towards AI and AR glasses as the big white hope for their XR aspirations.
Sorry, I was just gonna add. Yes, I mean, I completely agree that we're moving, especially in LBE, need to move beyond VR into XR, and in its various forms. It is, if we're going to be slapping something onto your face in order to do an attraction, it's got to be. It cannot be VR. Going.
It has to be something much more. As we touched upon at the beginning of this sound off, I'm wearing the "I Told You So" T-shirt, harking back to the 2024 IALPA show when I sat on shared a stage with Bob Cooney and actually made the statement there that we will have to move away from VR to XR. Well, I told you so. It has happened, and don't be so surprised when you see VR superseded by XR everywhere, even though the technology may borrow heavily from previously applied VR. That can be seen with also the move in XR towards immersion and experience. So our friends at Raw Thrills gave us a perfect example of this. They took their very successful VR experience and they removed the VR, turned the player towards the screens, and have seen continued success of that experience. So maybe sometimes it is more about the immersion and immersive gameplay than it is about the technology.
Yeah, I mean, these are, I haven't seen these ahead of time, so I'm just kind of like agreeing, nodding along with you. I mean, totally, like this is absolutely the next another trend that has happened, and I love when you put these two pictures side by side. This is not the first time we've seen them side by side like this, because it absolutely is the perfect encapsulation of what's happening in amusement, going from the VR to turning around and having the wraparound screens and the other immersion that you can do. So. It absolutely makes sense, and we'll continue to see this trend happen. I think with more and more of these large-scale simulators, or I should say, small-scale amusement simulators.
These immersive simulators are really going to be more prevalent next year. And again, I think projects that were maybe being started this year as VR projects may actually be released as immersive simulator projects next year. But an observation. We saw the migration, or the return, some would say, of the mall arcade. We've seen a phenomenal number of openings of entertainment facilities, and to be blunt, we're living the 1970s again in more ways. Our television is full of Stranger Things, and our shopping malls that still exist are now populating themselves with entertainment.
I think this trend is like the mall is back also. So it's not just the fact of the rebirth of the mall arcade. The mall in general is back. Not all malls. Many malls we're seeing shut down. I mean, very similar to what we talked about with the amusement parks and things that, the regional parks that are shutting down. Some regional malls just aren't going to be able to cut it. But the malls that do, they are back. And Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they love to go to the mall and hang out the way that millennials didn't. Yes. At the time and that's one of the reasons why the mall suffered. And we're seeing the arcade come back as a result of that generation coming back into the malls.
Now, when the malls that survive talk about an entertainment anchor, they're not just talking about cinemas or restaurants. Now, we are a major component of that, and it's essential that we up our game to stay relevant in that, or else we could be reliving what happened in the 1980s, and I don't want to see that. Obviously, a review of this year would not be complete without mentioning Gender. And we now got Gender Americas that was launched this year, as well as Gender Europe and Gender China. The monster is here. It is taking over the world, and those companies that try to ignore that are pretending from amnesia that they always knew that Gender was going to be important. The number of companies during IALPA this year that pretended that they'd always known that Gender was going to be a player in the market was amazing. And it's always a good move to just nod sagely and not draw them back to previous comments.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is again, we just every time we have an open and shut segment on the LBX show, like there's at least one, if not like 10 Genda locations opening, and then usually some sort of acquisition that they've made. The number of acquisitions they made this year is remarkable, and it's going to only continue the next year. These guys are on global domination move right now, and it's only a matter of time.
They're on fire, and they have some serious plans. I was just writing up their latest acquisition of an operation in the IP side of the business. So they're booking it, as it were. We should send them some advertising bills for all the time we talk about that.
Yeah.
The IALPA consolidated this, but the escape room business has migrated out of just the mom and pop escape rooms into the mainstream. It was very clearly a trend that was obvious on the show floor at IALPA and will be writ large next year. The amusement approach to escape gaming that our friends at Creative Works achieved with their Blast system, as well as that fantastic three-person enclosure escape game system.
Dark Escape games.
Dark Escape, thank you. We're all interested, as well as the Cube system. We can expect escape gaming mantra, be it either a mission room style or escape room or a horror escape experience, to play a part as an additional attraction next door to the karaoke and the AR darts in the social entertainment sector, but also on the amusement floor.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned here as well the mission room or challenge room experience, in addition to the mini escape games that are on the amusement floor, the game floor. It is the challenge rooms. Challenge rooms are on fire right now as well. I mean, this is the Hijinks Hotel is a heavily themed challenge room that Fun Lab just recently opened in Irvine, and they've obviously been opening up in Australia. And so this is a massive trend that will continue for at least the next few years.
Activate.
I could list them off, right? Time Mission, Level 99, Activate, and many more, right? Especially independent ones. But the challenge room, mission room, adventure room, whatever you want to call it, but they're the short term, 2 minute to 5 minute room experiences that you go in and out of on a regular, on a
with a
regular
strong social component. So
Yep.
it's that strong social component with maybe hospitality now figuring a lot more than tradition. We could be seeing a rejuvenation of the escape room, mission room business into a brand new landscape. It's just important that we witness it now and try and have this as some part of our industry, or else we'll be playing catch up. Playing catch up, the cinema industry has gone through an awful year, to be blunt. It's had highs, incredible highs and successes, and it's had really ground pounding lows. And just to take a snapshot of that as we end the year, Disney is, looking at least 6 major failures of film property, a major IP that has just cratered and lost them considerable amounts of money and credibility, only to have 2 success stories through the Lilo and Stitch live action and the Zootopia 2 as profitable, not vastly profitable, strong revenue generators. And as we write this, the jury's still out about whether Avatar will be Fire and Ice will be a major success or a so-so success. You don't vote against James Cameron, so I think it's going to make its money back, shall we say. But this is a big experience film. This is being pushed heavily as an IMAX must-be-seen 3D experience. And if you go on to the Friends of the Stinger Report Facebook, you'll see the latest trailer pushing that big IMAX experience for the latest Avatar movie. It's an important one, and if it is tainted by the problems that Disney's been having, then there'll be a lot of very angry investors. But this also points towards what the cinema industry is going to want to do next year to try and improve their fortunes, and that leads us to the explosion that we've seen in cinetainment, additional amusement components to the traditional cinema business.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, if you already have just a theater and you haven't added any entertainment to your theater, then you are going to continue to have problems and potentially shut down. I think really one of the bigger issues here is the purpose-built cinetainment facilities that many of them are based in Texas, are headquartered there, and have expanded beyond Texas. And there's even a few like Fat Cats in Utah or whatever. But these are, I think, really going to struggle. They build massive facilities in order to house the cinema sector. And yes, they have full entertainment. They have bowling and laser tag and full arcades and other different attractions as well. But if I'm going to go and if I can go bowling at Main Event versus going to your big giant cinema facility and I'm not actually going to go watch a movie, this is where like the purpose-built cinetainment facilities are really going to struggle unless film turns around.
True. The highs and the lows. This year we kind of saw the guy behind the curtain regarding AI and robotics. Our friends Amazon Fresh decided to pull out of the market because the Indians behind their cameras were more expensive than having something that actually worked based upon what they claimed they could do. 1X was one of those firework properties, lots of interest, explosion when it was revealed that it was a human behind the curtain and then down in pieces. And as of recording this, I haven't heard a single thing about 1X since the reveal. It'd be interesting to see if we hear anything more about that company anytime soon. I'm sorry, Brandon. I haven't shared.
Actually, I don't have anything extra to add to this one. So yeah.
Neither did they.
Yeah, exactly.
IP embarrassments abounds, but also our friends at Chuck E. Cheese should also be in the list. not just for working out how to turn lemons into lemonade in a marketing process when your mascot gets arrested. And then, of course, the local police force are bending over themselves to make sure that they seem to be the good guys here. We also seen Chuck E. Cheese or CEC Entertainment really up their game with their Chuck's Arcade, which seems to be very popular, and with the launch of their brand new active entertainment chain with the Chuck's World of Adventure. It's going to be interesting to see how all of these branding and facility positionings for CEC work out in the 2026 market.
Yeah, I was actually just talking about CEC Entertainment in a meeting yesterday, and about somebody was saying, they didn't even know, they're not in our industry, so they didn't even know that Chuck E. Cheese was still even doing well or whatever. Like, they had heard about the bankruptcy, but obviously, like, that was years ago, at this point. And I said, yeah, no, they've done they've done a phenomenal job at rejuvenating their brand, rejuvenating their overall experience, from the food to the entertainment, the attraction mix, to the characters, to the transmedia organization that they've become. And
Yes.
so, yeah, this I'm really excited to watch how they evolve next year and the year after, especially as they move more and more into transmedia.
As if you've seen these slides, transmedia plays a part here. A phrase that hadn't been used suddenly gained a lot more credence in the economic sector. The third place became, or the third space in some cases, became a terminology to describe the explosion in competitive socializing and the large number of entertainment facilities that built upon a social model going forwards. And that transmedia application really underpinned that. We are at an interesting point where the concept has been defined and companies have attempted to jump into those waters. We now need to see their boats float. And we're very familiar with one transmedia attempt through Sony Pictures that kind of is in purgatory at the moment with Wonderverse, while at the same time we've now had two back-to-back openings of Netflix House, and we now wait to see how their interpretation of a transmedia approach into social entertainment is going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I've already talked about it a little bit, so I'll just let's just move on to the next one, because I think I think Sony is well, anyway, I'm not gonna beat up on Sony. We'll move on.
We're waiting for them to make an official statement about where their Wonderverse sits in the market. I think it's important that they do that, the same way that it's important that other companies come clean regarding where they stand in this market, so we can move on, really. It's not good to keep dirty laundry hidden away. It starts to smell. The application of that transmedia is now being seen across all of the applications of technology. So, as I said earlier, location-based experiences rather than location-based entertainment seems to be driving our future, and that LBX, as it were, seeing IP added across it. So we've seen the virtual reality systems deploying IP into it. Our friends at Sandbox, with their relationship with Netflix and Squid Games and The Floor is Lava as examples. We have seen competitive socializing venues now wrapping a IP around some of the entertainment that they're offering. We saw Top Golf linking themselves to a number of entertainment properties, IP properties, films. And of course, we've seen the projection mapped, immersive, frictionless entertainment systems also going down that path. Our friends at Little Lions Entertainment, of course, and their Puckman live experience being just one example of how that transmedia XR technology bubble is going to play into the future.
I think the overall, I think the projection mapped XR mixed reality, depends on, I know we've had discussions around how we define XR and MR. I would say the mixed reality attractions and quote unquote immersion, even though I don't like that term. Immersion is it will continue to evolve, and we'll see more and more of it before we see a decline.
I think LBX rather than LBE gives us a kind of an out over immersion, and I wouldn't be surprised if certain industry pundits try and push that as terminology, but we can touch on that. I wonder who. Everything up. Well, some things went down, and to end the 12 months of this year, we have to face the reality that we have seen a vast number of facility openings, an incredible number of competitive socializing sites, incredible number of active entertainment venues, an incredible number of what I would call mixed-use leisure entertainment venues opening. Many of them brand new, but also a considerable number of existing chains adding to their retinue. But likewise, we've seen a concerning number of collapses and liquidations in this sector. Most recently, we've been talking about the Planet Play School implosion. I'm led to believe that the Hasbro properties in this particular locality, there's another entertainment facility within this mix there that is also looking that it has also closed down. So we've seen what we've talked about previously, that just rubbing IP onto something doesn't guarantee success. We lost DNA VR, and therefore chains of what could be called older approaches to the VR arcade model. For various reasons, it didn't adapt. We could also add to that Other Worlds, that was another UK-based VR arcade operation that went through closure. Pinstripes, the chain, has closed down, and their facilities now are either being acquired by 810 or are sadly being closed down permanently. We touched upon what's happened to Electric Playhouse, and we've also talked about what's been happening in the water park sector. There are trends that can be seen here. If you haven't invested in your brand, if you haven't future-proofed yourself against what the market's looking for, if you haven't considered what the guest experience is, and if you aren't aware of what's happening around you regarding competition, then your head's on the chopping block. And, as eggs are eggs, we will be talking about other companies that will be falling into this sad sinkhole if they're not prepared to learn from these lessons. Well,
that was a great. I'm assuming you chose 12. Maybe you chose 12 intentionally, or there was just happened to be 12 trends that lined up perfectly with 12 days of Christmas. But yes,
I didn't want to do an advent candle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but great rundown. Yeah.
Well, thank you to everyone. Wishing you a happy and prosperous 2026. We know it's going to be tempestuous, whatever it is. There's a lot of things are going to change, and be sure to keep up with us at Sound Off to keep your finger on the pulse, as it were, but also think about the Stinger report. We're just going through, more than halfway through, the extensive coverage of IALPA and the trends that we saw there, and we have a number of entertainment social arenas in the bag that will also be looking at the trends in that sector. Any information that you want to pass on, of course, use the LinkedIn and the email. Anyway, Brandon, that only leaves me to wish you and your family the very best for the new year.
Oh, thank you very much, Kevin. You as well.
Thank you. Have a good one, everybody.